Today's guest is someone who I've known now for 12 years, Chris Nunn, a director at Brezzy Whitney. And for today's introduction, we're actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give Chris a bit of an intro, but I'm going to ask Chris to share a part of his story and how we find ourselves here. Chris did send through some notes to me yesterday about his life, and I read those notes, and it left me in awe. And I thought, wow. So I'm actually going to ask Chris to share his story, and then we're going to unpack a lot of what he says. So Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And momentarily, over to you. If you feel comfortable and if you could.
Yeah, sure.
I'd love you to share.
Thank you. So I moved out of home at 14 years old. Had a good mum, but she was a single mum and an English teacher, and she was, I guess, doing her best to sort of raise my brother and I. And I for whatever reason, I moved out, and I moved in with some other young people that were in a similar situation to me, and that was what the next few years looked like for me between sort of then and adulthood. My father was bipolar. He was still pretty kind and loving, just a little bit nutty and a bit crazy. But also he was had a business where it was all around self-confidence and Brian Tracy and Rich Dad Poor Dad and Tony Robbins and all those sorts of influential people, and it was a good business, and I got a lot out of that as well. So that was sort of early life. I lived with obviously in an apartment, and we sort of did what we had to do to survive. I still tried to go to school, still tried to live as normal a life as I could. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about what happens next.
So I when I was 17, I moved back in with my dad, this time for a year, and his partner, Catherine. She's a pretty special person and a guiding light in my life today and back then. So is my mum. But I went back to school and sort of did my final year, and at the end of that I moved to Sydney in search of fame and fortune. Had never been here before, just moved with a friend, and started working for a menswear brand called Politics. I've only ever really had two jobs. I worked there for a decade, and then I've worked for Brezzy Whitney for 15 years. So that's really my working life. I met my wife when I was about 23, 24, and we married in 2006, and had my first child when I was 30 in 2010, and in 2010, incidentally, also, I found out that I had cancer. I just returned home from a trip around the world that we'd been able to do from the proceeds of my first apartment, selling that. I think I had $10,000 left in the bank, and when the specialist put it to me that, hey, you got cancer, you can either get it removed Tuesday and it's going to be free at St. Vincent's Hospital, or you can get the cancer removed on Friday, so a few days earlier, and it's going to cost you 10 grand. That's all I had left in the bank. So, but I didn't really want to play with my life, so I got it done at Royal North Shore, and they removed the cancer about 9 p.m. Incidentally, I was due to start with Shannon Whitney the next morning at 8 a.m. at an auction in Redfern. So in the morning, I sort of suited up and tried to cover up my sutures and make sure that they weren't bleeding too much. And on the way there, started throwing up at the Redfern Oval because I was still under the effects of the anaesthetic. And then caught up with Shannon. Shannon was too much of a gentleman to ask why I had a cane. About halfway through the day, we're eating a sandwich. He says, "Mate, I got to ask, like, why do you have a cane?" Because I didn't have a cane when I went and interviewed with them. And I said, I was pretty loopy. I said, I had a cancer removed last night, and I lifted up my shirt and showed him the stitches, and he was like, "Oh God." He goes, like, "Why are you here?" And I said, I didn't want to be that guy that the day he was due to start, had some cockamamie story. So that was the beginning of Brezzy Whitney for me.
And then you did your apprenticeship for about 4 years with Matt, and then those years were...
Yeah, so they were tough, definitely. I was sort of in the red every week. Typically, I'd get to Friday, payday would be Wednesday. I'd get to Friday and run out of money, and we'd make sure that we had spaghetti bolognese, freezer packed in the fridge, because we knew that that there was no more money that week after paying bills and mortgage and things like that. And so yeah, we just eat spaghetti bolognese or literally ham sauce baked beans or whatever until Wednesday, and then payday again, and that was life for a while.
Okay, and then why don't we skip to present day? So this is, my intro for you. So as of today, you're a director at Brezzy Whitney, practicing as a sales agent, with a team of 4, selling approximately 100 or 90 houses a year. You're 45, you have 3 kids, and fair to say that you have a really good life, and have struck a balance between the success that's come with hard work at work, and also family life and personal life, etc., etc. Yeah, more so today. I think between when I stepped out, between sort of 2014 and 2018, and you might be familiar with this this sort of way of being in our profession, is that I probably didn't do it very well at all. It was just a pure adrenaline all day long. You wanted to win everything you could at all costs. You were pretty catatonic to the people around you who cared about you. Like I'd have friends and family, and anyone who sort of knew me, colleagues at work, that would ask me, probably a few times a week, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm good, I'm sweet." So it took a while to think of anything, in the way of mindfulness or balance, work-life balance. So they were pretty adrenaline-charged years where you're just trying to earn your stripes and just show the people around you that you've got the goods, and show yourself that you got the goods and you can make it. This constant idea that I have to crack through, haven't cracked through yet. This idea that if you don't get enough momentum going, that you'll never sort of lift off, in terms of your profession and your career and your trajectory. So out of home at 14.
Yep.
You live with 2 15-year-olds and a 17-year-old in Perth.
Yep.
How does someone leave home at 4? Like, how does somebody leave home at 14? Like, where do you go?
Yeah. So, I think my mum and I had a bit of an altercation. nothing physical, just an argument. And I was pretty, don't want to say advanced, but I was older than I was in years. I'd sort of grown up quickly, I guess, and so I probably felt like I was 17 or 18, and I think I stayed with a friend. I think I hid in a friend's house for a night. They shuffled me in after their parents had gone to bed, and I sort of stayed there. And then the next day I got in contact with a couple of girls and a guy that I knew had an apartment, and asked if I could crash there. And then the next minute they sort of said, do you want to live with us a bit more permanently? Then the 17-year-old guy had a bit of a altercation with one of the girls. He ended up moving out. It would end up being me and the girls, and we just lived. This is over in Perth, so yeah, we just lived in. I managed to secure an apartment in Fremantle.
But where do you get income from? How did you pay for all this?
So my mum, I think, did maybe send me a couple of $100 a week, and I also was on I think I was getting a government subsidy or some sort of government payment as well. So between that and the money my mum sent me, and just anything else I could think of. Yeah.
And what about your brother? Did he stay at home?
So my older brother had moved out before I had. He's 6 years older. So yeah, he was well out of home. I think he was out of home at 16 or 17.
Okay. So, and what did your accommodation look like then?
Yeah, so it's funny, of course, none of us should have had a lease, but we sort of met some dodgy guy that managed a whole block of apartments, and so he gave us the lease, and yeah, I mean there was a lot that went through that apartment, a lot of shady characters that sort of came in and out of our lives. So it was a pretty sort of checkered upbringing. I probably made every mistake and every did every sort of wrong thing there was to do, but always sort of never lost sight of moral compass, and always sort of meant well and wanted to do good, and hence continuing to go to school. But it was pretty weird going to school with school kids that were going coming back and forward from mum and dad's house, and hard to relate to them because I was different lives.
How old is your eldest now?
14 years old, probably.
So, and it's Josh, right?
Joshua, yeah.
Okay. Could you imagine him in that same situation?
Blows my mind when I see him now. I'm like, you're you're just a young, I don't want to say like a little boy, but to me he is.
So when you think about that was you leaving home at that age, how does that make you feel?
It kind of different emotions. Like when I sort of see Josh, I don't know. I guess I feel lucky that I didn't turn out too bad, and a little bit fearful when I just to think that that's what I did. So I really want to protect him and really give him a good life and make sure that he has like love and stability around him.
Do you ever feel sad?
Not really, no. Because I mean, for one, like I wake up every morning and I feel very blessed and very grateful. It's a natural state of being to me. I think maybe I inherited some extra serotonin from my dad or something, but don't get any of the depression. I just get the happy feelings. So
you don't feel like a part of your childhood was missing as a result, or?
No, I mean it's pretty hard to do what I do now and to have the life I have now and not be grateful or not feel blessed. Even when I got cancer, I gravitated pretty quickly to that's the type of cancer you want to get. So I felt lucky. I was like, "Oh, lucky I got that kind of cancer."
That's an amazing attitude, Chris. You describe your dad as kind and loving, but unpredictable, obviously bipolar.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did that look like in your world?
Yeah. So interestingly, I guess for anyone out there that have any bipolar people they know, they can create businesses out of thin air. That, like, there's just this sort of manic energy, which can be incredibly captivating and incredibly, like, he was also an educator, and I would watch him present. He could present to thousands of people, and he was incredible. Yeah, he was like larger than life and quite amazing. So wasn't sort of like some depressed guy skulking around. Like, no, he would sort of create things, but then also he'd burn them down to the ground as well. So and that would just be by suddenly becoming agitated and not feeling as good as he did towards the people he was working with and so on. And so he would build and he would burn down.
Are you able to give like a real life example of a situation where you experienced that bipolar nature?
Yeah, I can. So there were, I can share from him, and then also a personal one for me. So he built a pretty successful business. Him and Catherine built a pretty successful business, which was like running self-confidence workshops and self-confidence camps as well for sort of underage camps, which were generally for kids that were having some problems and so on, but they were really successful. They went really well. They also had the rights to a self-confidence guy, Brian Tracy, here in Australia, so they promoted a lot of his material and ran a lot of workshops. But the people that were supporting them and the people that were running those businesses with them, I think Dad had certainly had altercations with most, if not all of them, over the period. So something that was really successful and really meaningful business, sort of eroded quite quickly, and then people splintered off and started starting their own businesses and so on. That was just common. I would, there wouldn't really be a time that Dad wouldn't have partnered up with someone where he wouldn't, it wouldn't sort of fracture and then sort of become a bit toxic. For me personally, I never really had any of that negativity or depression really come my way until I was older. There was one sort of episode when I was about maybe 38, 39, and my dad was over, and he was it was Christmas. He kept on sort of badgering me about something, and I think I lost my cool at him. I said, can you just, because this is right when I was, in that stage that I was talking about with real estate, where you're trying to earn your stripes and it's pure adrenaline, and I just couldn't handle the agitation from him. And I said, can you just stop, and he stormed out of the house about 2 minutes later. I think he felt it was greatly disrespectful and stormed out of the house. And then we didn't talk for 2 years. I then caught up with him for a few days. He just called out of the blue and said, I'm back in Sydney. He was living in Thailand, working for a university over there. And thank God he came back, because he died of a heart attack about a month later. So that was the last time that I saw him. And it was off the back of 2 years of not talking with each other.
I'm sorry. How old was he?
I think he was probably around 70, thereabouts.
So you did connect with him before the heart attack, or?
Sorry, 65, 65. Not 70. Okay. Yeah, 65.
So you did connect with him before?
I did, yeah, just a couple of days. Yeah, it was great. I mean, he came back. It was like nothing had happened. But prior to that, after the altercation, he was living in Surrey Hills, and he mentioned one morning, I was trying to figure out how to reconnect, and we're having a few conversations, and he mentioned that he savaged some guy that went and moved his bins, that was wearing a suit one morning, and you could have half a guess why the guy wearing a suit was moving his bins, because, you know, photographing the house next door to him. He said he went out and savaged this guy, went off at him, and then he said, and then I realised it's because he reminded me of you. So I said, okay, so I think we're going to probably leave this for a while longer. So yeah, so that was probably,
Wow.
you know, a few months after.
How did that make you feel?
Look, I think I just had to accept that was what was going through his mind, and that's how he felt. I think one of the traits of someone who's bipolar is they fixate, you know, on people or things that you know, make them angry or upset them, and it's very hard to influence them any other way until they're ready. So yeah, when he was ready, yeah, we just reconnected, and it was like water under the bridge.
How do you feel about him now?
I love him. Yeah, I love him. He was a great guy, wonderful influence in life. He just had a bit of a curse. What's you gonna do?
How do you think he felt about you?
Oh, I think he loved me. Yeah, loved me and loved my brothers. He was full of love and full of just enthusiasm and excitement. I mean, you know, most of the, you know, just crazy stuff when we were younger, just even simple things didn't cost money. He would go into some basement car park, and he'd put us in a trolley and just like drive the trolley around at 400 miles an hour, and, you know, we'd smash into things, and, you know, that was might sound weird, but yeah, that was fun.
Good memories.
Yeah.
Your mum, so also described her as kind, but obviously struggling. She was an English teacher.
Yeah, well, I think she's not struggling now. Like she's sort of worked her ass to the bone and built a little property portfolio for herself, and but she's sort of done that by, you know, eating beans and rice and being very humble, and you know, one thing I realized sort of in just thinking about my parents and the influence and so on and upbringing and who they are is that, you know, she would never hurt a fly. She's just a good person. She's complicated and she thinks a lot. But yeah, she's a good person, and she was always there for me. And I think when I moved out, it would have been really hard for her, because I was probably incredibly spirited and challenging for her to sort of manage. Yeah.
And she's still in Perth?
No, she's here now. Yeah, she came here many years ago. Yeah, she was living in Bali, and we started chatting, and again we didn't chat for a few years, but yeah, she was living in Bali, and I suggested, why doesn't she come and live here, and, you know, be easy for us to connect. So she did that, and yeah, we've got a good relationship today.
Amazing. And then Cass. So Cass, you said, is a no BS New Zealander, but a guiding light for you.
Yeah, she's great. She
was your father's partner.
That's right.
For
yeah.
How many years?
Probably about somewhere between sort of 10 to 12 years.
And they split up how long ago?
They split up, I think, when I was probably about 35.
So 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago they split up. Yeah.
And she remains a guiding light.
Yeah, absolutely. She's an incredibly kind soul. She's one of those people that nothing's too much trouble. She'll go out of her way to sort of make sure that you've got your mental health and your happiness, and she sort of always knows the right thing to say. And yeah, she's incredibly authentic and genuine. She's not sort of placating or patronizing. She's just thinking of solutions to help you in your life. So yeah, really good.
So what influence does she still have on you today?
Well, interestingly, the man she married, Carl Cameron, he had a Bailey's franchise, real estate franchise in New Zealand, and it was after visiting them in 2010, early 2010, that I decided I'd get into real estate. He was talking about, all the people he had working with him and what they were doing, and sounded really exciting to me. So yeah, I sort of decided then and there that, that's what I'm going to do.
These early relationships, mum, dad, Cass, how have they shaped you? And I guess more specifically, how have they influenced you now as a person and as a real estate agent?
Funny. And I think nobody's ever asked me that. And I haven't really thought about it. But as you say the words, I think probably they've influenced me a lot in that the relationships I hold, whether it be with my team, whether it be with my clients, just internally with you guys, I don't think it's as complicated as people make out in terms of what it takes to succeed, or what it takes to get ahead. I just think you just need to be kind, be as humble as you can be. It's hard sometimes, because obviously we get on those highs, but be humble, be grateful. And, if I think of these people, like my dad, my mum, Cass, Carl, they're all incredibly humble, very grateful, very kind, caring people. So yeah, that's
amazing.
So they've influenced me a lot.
Can we skip forward now to say the Brezzy Whitney days? I'm still fascinated. So with your cancer, are you comfortable to say what sort of cancer it was?
Yeah, sure. Testicular.
Okay. And so you obviously found that, and then so the timing worked out that you had a job lined up with Brezzy Whitney alongside Shannon Whitney. Okay. I'm just mind blown that you had an operation and you turned up to work the next day. How long were you supposed to be in hospital for?
Well, it was a 1-day operation, so that was okay. It was okay to go home, but then I was supposed to recover, for, 2 weeks. Without going out. Okay,
but you went to work the next day with a cane, with stitches, with the anesthetic probably still doing its thing.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look back at that, what were you thinking?
Well, it was probably a case of not thinking, or just having a very one-track mind that I'm not going to not turn up. I mean, I think that's the one thing I was thinking. It was just resounding, I'm not turning up. And I had to keep repeating that in my mind, because I knew that, Rebecca was saying, like, you can't. So I'm not turning up. It's not an option. I'm turning up.
Okay. And so this is post your politics days. So you spent 10 years at politics.
Yeah.
And now you've got your opportunity in real estate.
So 10 years at politics, 13 weeks around the world. Honestly, like I said, spending almost every cent we'd ever saved. But it was just an important thing to do. And then this is about 2 weeks after I'm back from overseas. So a week later, get this thing checked out. I remember being given the envelope, says for doctor's eyes only. I said, yeah, right. So I undid it, took the label off, undid it, and it said, yeah, aggressive non-germ cell seminoma. And I thought, oh, that doesn't sound very good. And then we went to the GP, and the GP looked very sad. That was probably the thing that scared me the most. Is the GP looked very sad when she read the report, and she said, you can't start with Brezzy Whitney on Saturday. And I thought, oh shit, that look on your face does not look good. So I really did think, given the look on her face, I did think, oh, this is maybe worse than I think it is. And
what did you think it was?
I thought, yeah, that I might die. Obviously Beck was pregnant with Josh, and so there was some tears and sobbing there. That that was lights out maybe. But it definitely did sort of reshape my my take on life and appreciation. And I got pretty damn grateful pretty fast. I went and had the day I had the cancer removed. When I came to, Beck was saying, you got to be quiet because you're swearing like a sailor and the stories you're telling are not appropriate. And I didn't even know I was talking. So that was sort of what I woke up to. And I went, oh, really? They said, yeah, you've been awake for a little bit. And and they said, yeah, look, we got it in. It was still in stage 1. So that was lucky.
Okay. So that meant you lost the testy, right?
It did.
Okay. Can we say that? There's other men
if you must.
Yeah.
So I was pregnant with Josh. Well, we were pregnant with Josh at the time, and then after that, I had 2 girls. So I think they took my boy one.
Right. Okay. Okay. I still can't comprehend how you did that, and it says so much about you and your work ethic and how you approach life. Like, it obviously seems like it wasn't an option for you. You mentioned in some of the notes you shared with me yesterday about eating freezer spaghetti, right? So these are the sacrifices that you've made in your life. So, and can you tell us about your spaghetti story?
Well, so it's sort of, there's more than that. Like, I lived in Coogee in an apartment that I couldn't afford to live in, but I sectioned off part of the living room and made it into another bedroom, and then I sort of sublet that out to another. So that's always what I've done. So in 2026, no, what am I saying? In 2006, there was a government grant and something, and no stamp duty or something like that. So I bought an apartment. I don't know, with maybe $5,000 or $10,000 in savings or something like that. I bought an apartment. That ended up being probably a similar price to paying rent. So that was my foot in the door there. The year later, in 2027, we sort of pulled some fancy footwork with equity for that apartment and managed to convince the bank to loan us some money to buy a small house in Alexandria. So we did that, but I couldn't afford to live in that house, so we just negative geared it, and I leased it out to a professional couple, sort of working in a city, like medical couple, for probably 3 or 4 years. Unfortunately, I locked my interest rate in at the time at 8% or something, and it just before it swiftly went down to 5%. So I had it locked in for 5 years for 8%. So that was a mistake, but a good lesson. But between negative gearing and depreciation, it didn't actually cost us anything, that house, every year. It sort of broke even, and that's obviously, if I hadn't have done that, and a lot of that was sort of off the smell of an oily rag, and they shouldn't have probably approved our loan and things like that, then it'd be a different story today.
So why did you put yourself in that position? Like you basically took yourself to the edge, right?
With that house, when I did eventually move in, which is shortly after the cancer, and starting at Bresic Whitney, I still couldn't really afford to live there. So hence the beans and rice, spaghetti bolognese, freezer pack. I think at one stage we had 3 flatmates. So I was leasing 3 separate rooms in order to pay the mortgage. So that's and we had newborn child. We actually had a second child maybe 18 months later, and we still I think we scaled back 1 flatmate, so we had 2 flatmates. I'm there trying to peddle in real estate, plus 2 kids, newborn and a 2-year-old. So it was just always just whatever you got to do.
So what kept you going in those days?
Faith. yeah, like honestly, just faith. Like I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. I mean, I did go home for the first 12 months, maybe to 18 months, every day saying, I'm going to lose my job. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired. The agent I was working with was didn't pull his punches in terms of would say things like, look, I don't know if I can afford to keep you, and obviously to me, I'm sort of pretty certainly Dan was very in my head, and so I would think, oh, that's because I'm not worth keeping. Clearly I haven't done anything to demonstrate that I'd be worth keeping. So I always felt that I was right on the edge of like not having a job anymore and not being good enough to be there, and that probably stayed with me for a long time. Even when I started to get a few more runs on the board, I'd sort of think I was a fluke. That sort of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I hear. So what did you learn about humility and identity in those early days?
So, as you may well know, working with someone like Shannon is great for your humility, because Shannon, perhaps being a ex Tamworth, tough guy, he's very if anyone in the office is sort of bragging or carrying on, he's one look or one comment and he's sort of what am I doing? I'm an idiot. I sound like a goose, So, but which is great, because eventually, the only thing full circle is then you got to remember to celebrate the wins. So you got to sort of go through that journey, learn to be humble, and then come back on the other side and learn to celebrate the wins. So, and Shannon probably, that's probably a gap for Shannon over the years. Maybe it's been celebrating the wins. So,
do you ever do that? Celebrate the wins?
I have to remind myself to, because there's that thing, you're only as good as your last performance. It always goes on in my head, and it's funny. You could be flying one month, and everybody loves you, and you're delivering on all the things you promise people you do, and you're kind of flying high, soaring like eagle, and then you can literally be, and I'm sure, in fact I know you've had those months where 4 weeks later you're there going, I suck, I'm no good, nobody likes me.
It's interesting because I never celebrate the wins. And I think that's because we're taught like the concept of next, which is designed to protect us if you don't win. So like you don't get a listing or a sale falls through or an offer, falls over. You just say to yourself next, and that gives you the drive to just keep going. But I've found that I say that next is what I say when there could be a potential win or there is a potential win. I can't remember the last time I celebrated something at work outside of staff related things. So like I'd love to celebrate my staff success, but certainly I'm not sure what I would celebrate.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I think, and in listening to your first podcast, it certainly resonated with me, this idea that you don't want to be a deal junkie. You don't want to be a deal junkie, but by the same token, it's good to love what you do. It's good to invest in what you do. It's good to sort of just really feel what you do. And so I don't know. As far as celebrating the wins, I celebrate while I'm doing these things. I celebrate, when I list a property, I celebrate that we've got it to go and, stand at and meet people, and, to have that opportunity. I celebrate, getting it up online. And so, yeah.
It's good. It's good that you do that. Yeah. In the early years, you said you tried to copy other agents, and then a part of your success came from some authenticity about being yourself. So can you explain how you implemented that, or what that practice of being yourself came to fruition?
Yeah, so I mean, it was like an absolute minefield when I started. There was Will Phillips and James Hayashi and Laura Lane was there, Kim Church, a few other agents, and it was a pretty brutal environment. There was a lot of egos and a lot of probably a lot of fear as people tried to sort of cut their teeth and cut through and make a name for themselves. I would sort of look to, obviously, Will Phillips and try to figure out, like, can I be like him? And look to Matt, can I be like him? Look to all these, any agent that was performing and doing well, like Seton Jones at the time and Mark Foy, all these different people. But I just couldn't connect with that in any way, shape or form. Like, I was just too different to those guys. And more importantly, they were all incredibly different to each other. So it was like a puzzle. I'm sort of a puzzler. Like, when I can't, I really want to sort of crack the puzzle. The one thing I figured out beyond that, it took me, I don't know, probably a few weeks of like asking the question and deliberating and just thinking, geez, I cannot find the thread here and then it did dawn on me one day, and I thought, you're all so unashamedly yourselves. Like, you're just unapologetically you, each of them. And then I realized, like, and that was actually exciting to me, because I thought, well, I'm just going to be me. And then the more I did that, the more I connected with people, the more sort of the easier I found it was to win business, to sort of inject yourself into the industry, and the more people started to respond a lot more. And yeah, it was a game changer. 1 minute I was trying to be like everyone else, and you'd whatever, make your 50 calls, and you'd have a pretty low yield, and then the next minute I could make 20 calls and have 3 times as much cut through.
So that's an example of what you're talking about now, right? So, like, real estate agents, basically industry promotes, you make all these phone calls, all these connections, whatever it may be. But you're different in the sense that it's unnatural for you to sit there and ring 100 people a day.
Very. And
ask them if they want to buy or sell or whatever real estate agents talk about, right? So for you, it's about probably less conversations, longer conversations.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And different conversations.
Definitely. Definitely. I was pretty shocked when I stepped out on my own. I really did realize quickly that the bar was low.
What do you mean by that?
Bar's definitely low in real estate. Like, I would have cases where I called someone back a couple of times when I said I would, and I told them that I'd let them know if any properties came up that suit their brief, and I'd send them an email or two. They'd buy the week later, and there'd be like a testimonial email that would come through to Ivan and Shannon, like singing my praises. And I realized all I did was I just called them back when I said I would, and I just sent them a couple of properties because I said I would. And I realized the bar's that low in real estate that, just doing what you say you're going to do, and actually, giving half a damn about somebody's, search and their, what they're trying to achieve, is kind of powerful and, meaningful.
How would you describe, like, you're a top performer, so you're one of the best agents in the country, but what is your philosophy? Like, how would you describe your style?
That is a tough one. I mean, we joke around and talk about dragon style, tiger style. Don't try this at home, but it's definitely not. I'm not an avid prospector. I never have been. I prefer to have genuine conversations with people. I prefer to, if I'm working with someone, it's because I want to work with them. I prefer to, just be as authentic as possible. I think, I'm sure other people say that. It's just that I'm allergic to this sort of ambulance chase sort of vibe that happens in real estate, where, you know, remember me, I'm your best friend. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, hey, you know, I can't do that. And I certainly can't do it 100 times a day. So I much prefer where, I mean, I do get a lot of inbound calls from people with certain types of homes that say, hey, I've seen that you've sold, you know, a number of these homes before. So that's great. But obviously it wasn't always like that. In the beginning, this is something I did. So when I worked for Matt, I remember I did this at my wedding, and I drew a number of drinks next to every single person of how many drinks I think they're going to drink, as to whether I'd get a full drinks package or whether I'd pay per drink. And I realized I'll pay per drink. So I did this same thing with Matt. I went, all right, I'm going to look back over your last 60 listings, and I'm going to do a number of stars next to it of how many years it took between you meeting that person and listing their property. And it was interesting. It was an average of something like 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years on average. Now, I think why that was is because at the time, and I'm sure his business is different now, but at the time, I think his approach was very passive. You know, it was like put them on an email list, send, you know, 50 emails that year for various things, you know, do the Easter call and the Christmas call or whatever, and that would be the business. So as a result, business flowed very passively back to him, which was, 4 to 5 years. So that now, as someone who's looking at that, you sort of go, oh, so I'm not going to do anything even, you know, close for 4 or 5 years. It'll be 4 or 5 years. And even then, I better make sure that I'm sending 50 emails and I'm calling them in Easter and calling them in Christmas. Now, incidentally, I've never done any of that. My first, say, 20 listings, what I realized was that I'd known all of them for about 3 months. So I thought, well, my average of, you know, between meeting a person and listing and transacting is about 3 months. And that was 4 or 5 years. So I realized there's different styles, there's different approaches. And I prefer my approach, which I think might also be your approach.
Yeah. So there's different styles. And I would describe that approach as like an above the surface point of sale type of approach. Because I'd say that's how I've operated as a real estate agent for 20 years now. I think I'm the same. So all my business comes from my previous wave of business. My observation of you, Chris, is this, that you have a very good ability. So if there's a buyer that walks through an open house or a seller, you can decipher between who those people are amongst 20 people. So you naturally gravitate somehow to the right people. Then you seem to sort of latch onto them. And then I think once you've latched onto them, you seem to, however you do it in your own style, just extract what you need to extract or help them the way that they want to be helped. I've found people that when they mention that they maybe have a relationship with you, like they seem to be fiercely loyal to you. And I think that's actually pretty rare in real estate. So I feel like it goes deeper than a transaction, you know, whatever bond you make with people. What do you put that down to?
Good question. It does feel like that. Like I do feel pretty bonded to the people that I work with, and what I would say is a lot of agents that I've met do have this predatorial mentality. This sort of like that it's them against the market, or you know them and then the market separate. Whereas pretty much anyone I've ever transacted with, I mean, obviously you're going to get the odd, you know, clash or bad egg that you didn't realize when you sort of first met them, but and most people that I've ever transacted with and that I've been, fortunate enough to work with, they, in terms of clients, picking me to represent them, it feels like a partnership. That sort of sounds cheesy, but like I've always cared. It's always been like, it's always been, I don't know, like a heart thing, not just a head thing. It's not a case of, it's always been more about them than about me. So, yeah, this all sounds cheesy, but it's true.
No. Do you lose much business?
Not that much.
If you did lose business, why would you lose it? And we're talking about specifically perhaps a listing presentation.
Sometimes I might be overconfident, and it's funny. I had one recently where, I wanted to win the business, and it was a little house in a city, and I wanted to win the business. I'd known the clients for a long time, not well, just that I sold them a house and many years ago, and sort of I knew that they knew what we were doing and so on over the years, and I wanted to impress them. So I was telling them all this stuff about what we did and so on, and some feedback came back to one of our property managers, and they said, we think he thinks he has it in the bag. And they went with another agent. And I thought, wow. And then I had to rethink that, geez, you can be trying to impress someone, or and they might turn around and sort of think that, wow, he's very full of himself. So it's a fine line. You're thinking, I just wanted to tell you how great we are, so you would go with us. But so
how would you approach that same situation differently then?
Yeah, I would probably make it abundantly clear that, hey, I know you can pick anyone who you want to pick, and I completely respect that. And there's a lot of good agents around. Simple stuff.
Do you ask a lot of qualifying questions?
I do try to, and obviously there's there's plenty of times that I'm sure I go in and I'm too statement based, which I know is a mistake. I probably get away with it more than I should, because again, like I said, when you have something that's inbound, it's easier for you to do that because they're saying, hey, come and talk to us. We've seen what you've done. Tell us about what you've done. But in general, I try to be as question based as I can. I know how valuable that is, and I do slip up sometimes.
You know something that's interesting? I remember, I think you asked really good questions, and I noticed that. So we spent some time together in Bali recently, and I know we had a 2.5 hour car ride together. And the way you ask questions is so different to how I ask questions, but you almost ask them in reverse, which intrigues me because it opens up, and good questions lead to good answers. I remember I went for a listing in the early days at Breziquini. I'm not sure if you were with me or not, but it was an apartment in Camperdown.
Oh yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there was someone else. There was another agent in the building that really dominated at the time. And I think we were there, and maybe Jennifer said something along the lines of why wouldn't I give it to this person? Because they do sell everything in the building. And then I think you asked the question, if I recall correctly. You said, why wouldn't you give it to her? And now I ask that question all the time now. But I remember at the time, it sort of stumped me. And I was like, God, that's a good question. Why wouldn't you use her? And then she sort of listed the reasons why she wouldn't. And were we at that together? Or did you coach me on that?
No, we were there.
Okay. And then I think, obviously, that's what we then focused on. And then we did get the listing right, and we did sell it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we smashed it.
So that's a good example of how your brain thinks. I find it hard to define your style
Me too.
Can I share something with you that I've never told you? You know how I describe you in conversation? I call you the anaconda. Have I ever told you that? Do you want to know why?
Yeah.
Because you grab people and you slowly squeeze them to the point that you seem to get exactly what you want by the end of the conversation, whether it's through your questions or through suffocation. And it's genius. I would hate to compete against you because if I use that analogy, when you grab someone and you wrap yourself around, I don't know how they get out. Like your questions, your present, your questions are so good. I mean, what you promote, your results, like that would be so hard to compete against because no one can go in and copy your listing presentation. Is it fair to say that it's not like you have a structure when you go in and you go through these different points? Is that fair?
Definitely not. Yeah.
So so then it's like, how do we beat him? Like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. It's.
So what are you talking about?
Just real stuff. You know, there's a person sitting in front of me. They got, you know, hopes, dreams, desires, all that. I'm interested in that without being, you know, laying it on too thick or, you know, but I genuinely am interested. I'm genuinely curious. I'm genuinely curious as to what they're doing, why they're doing it, why I'm there, why not someone else, how they're feeling. When people open up to you, like I love that. Yeah, when you sort of, I mean, interestingly, Luke and I had one on the weekend where we said the beginning of that was not good. Like they were closed and cold, and by the end of it, the questions that were sort of pinging both ways were so good and the connection was so good. So it just completely turned around. And as soon as that happened in there, like you could feel it straight away. And like there's such a good feeling, you know, when you realize like somebody sort of everything their body language and everything they're saying to you is sort of demonstrative that, hey, we trust you, we like you and we trust you.
Do you have like, I don't think you can do this, but are there questions that you ask? Like, do you have, like, what are you interested in when you meet someone?
There's definitely no set questions. Like I find that when I try to plan, I do worse. So I pretty much freestyle everything. The idea of doing scripts and dialogues to me, just like if it worked for me, or if it made me ask better questions, or then I would certainly do it. I don't mind the idea of doing that exercise, but it just does not gel with my consciousness. If I am sitting there and, you know, in terms of what am I interested in, I'm interested in, what makes them tick? What makes them tick? You know, why would they pick me? Why wouldn't they pick me? We asked that of this one that didn't go crash on the weekend. I said, if you picked us, why would you pick us? And they gave us some great reasons, and so straight away it's a really good check-in. Oh, they were listening, and this has actually landed with them. That's really good. And then I said, if you didn't pick us, you know, why wouldn't you pick us? Or is there anything that would stop you from picking us? And the husband said, oh, look, I can't think of anything, which is always a nice thing for someone to say. And the wife said, can I be honest with you? And I said, yeah. But when she said that, I was like, yeah, bring it on. Like, I want to hear this. This is great. And she said, you know, whenever someone comes in with a sort of a sharp suit and a silver tongue and this and that, and it was there was nothing I could sort of do or not do, but it was just interesting to hear her feedback that she has a natural reaction to anyone coming in too slick and too preened. So,
Do you think that makes you more relatable?
What?
Because you don't wear, like, you're not a slick agent.
No. Interestingly, that morning actually showed on my phone. I said that morning I'd been looking up, like, can I not wear a suit as a real estate agent in Australia? I said, look, I was looking at that this morning, like trying to figure it out if I could do this or not. I certainly don't gear up like, some of the people we know that are, the tie and the pocket square and the, 3-piece suit and all that. And that's no criticism, like more power to them. It's just not my vibe, not my style.
With, so you mentioned Luke. So I just want to acknowledge your team quickly because I think Ivan said something recently, which is when we celebrate top agents, it's one thing to celebrate their numbers and their sales and, whatever it is, their income, etc. That's what we do as an industry. But Ivan put on the table that we should also celebrate how many people they've developed. And I think that was a really interesting concept because that mainly speaks to leadership.
Definitely.
So I know that you're clearly a leader in the business, but you've had Nick Playfair, who is, who's done his apprenticeship underneath you and now is an amazing agent and building his own team. You've got Luke, you've got Hannah. So how do you describe your leadership style?
Similar to how we describe my real estate style, which is sort of nondescript. So,
okay, how do you explain? Help the listener. Yeah. How do they learn from you?
So right. So definitely not a micromanager. Try to be fair always. Sort of unwaveringly. It only takes sort of one time where you're not fair or one time where you're disrespectful or one time where, you might give your team the impression that, they're not as important to you as you make out or what have you. So, which I would like to think, that they would know is anything but the truth. Like I respect them so much. I appreciate them so much. I revere them so much. I learn so much from them, both Luke and Hannah and Nick over the years. So, I love them. I love them all very dearly. I genuinely do. It's not that I go around, telling them that every day or anything, they're just good people. I'm more someone who I sort of work backwards. I sort of decide, well, that in my opinion, you're a great person. Beyond that, I'll just, whatever you need, we can do. Like if someone's struggling or not necessarily getting the runs on the board or what have you, that's fine. Like it'll happen later. You're a great person. And over the years, but Nick, Hannah and Luke have all sort of more than demonstrated their skills and their capability and their support of me as well. So, there's not much professionally and personally I wouldn't do with them. I'd do, for them within reason.
How do you think they would describe you as a leader?
Oh, depends on the week, depends on the month. I'd like to think they know that I'm real and I care about them. I'd like to think that they would say that they feel supported and they feel appreciated. They let me know when they're not, so I guess that's a good sign. If in any given moment or transaction or what have you that they don't feel appreciated or that I might have forgotten to tell them how amazing they are or what have you. But I'm pretty sure they know.
What are you most proud of right now in relation to your team?
So I'm very proud of the fact that I think they are unashamedly and unapologetically themselves. So I think that's great. They're not trying to be like me or anyone else. So they both really have their own brand and their own identities. Hannah has done some really incredible work over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. She's been sort of instrumental in us, breaking more into glebe and the premium end of glebe. She just has such a special way that she relates with people, and she's really patient, and she's kind, and she's very sincere, and she's very knowledgeable. She's amazing, and she's looked after us in between EAs here or there. You know what that's like. So I have a lot of time for her. Luke goes without saying. Luke's the wonder boy. Very incredible agent, gift of the gab. I always mention captain of his debating team at school. All those things. So proud dad. He's a real tour de force in his own right. I always say to these guys, if you want to step out on your own or do your own thing, I'll support you in that, if and when. So, I don't think, they're not there to just, further my profile. I promote them to death any chance I get. So, but pretty much before Luke or Hannah have met any of our clients, by the time they meet the client's like, oh, this is Hannah, this is Luke. So
yeah, I want to acknowledge them too, because my observation is that they're amazing team players. They share data. Sometimes we got a WhatsApp group between the two offices, Balmain and Glebe in particular. And I might ask a question around, like, who do we think this buyer could be? And usually Luke or Hannah is one of the first to reply. So their knowledge is very good. Their ability and desire to share is very good. I just want to come back to you one more time. Do you think then you would be difficult to work with?
Oh yeah, for sure. But
I say that because you are so unstructured.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah. So we've got a new EA coming on board, and we're excited because we think she'll be fantastic. So we'll see. Famous last words. But and she appeared to be very structured, and Luke and Hannah and I all sat with her, and I said to her, look, I got to tell you, I got a golden rule. And I said, this is because I'm pretty unstructured. I said, if you tell me, if you remind me of something twice, then upon the sort of second reminder, I want you to let go and move on. Like, you got to do that, because what I notice about, particularly in the EA role, or whether it's Luke or Hannah, sometimes people get very activated if you don't act upon, what they kind of put in front of you. But I don't know about you here, but there are times I just need more time to think, and I won't necessarily explain myself to whoever's putting that in front of me. And it can cause a lot of friction, if people feel as though you're dropping the ball. So anyway, that's my golden rule there. That maybe that doesn't answer your question well, but that's my golden rule around people who are structured and how unstructured I am. That I don't want to have a fight with you, because you followed me up 16 times for the same thing, and you're getting pissed off, and I'm frustrated. Remind me twice, move on, go do something else.
So with would somebody have to remind you of something 16 times? Probably.
Well, it depends. There might be times that they're up to their 16th time, and I still haven't figured out what I want to do about that thing. So it's more like leave me to my process.
You're still thinking.
Yeah. What
can you just tell me about or just share what does a typical day look like for you now at this stage of your career?
That could be like, definitely no 2 days are ever the same. I wake up, I feel good. I Get the kids out of the house sometimes. Sometimes Beck does, sometimes I do. I do it more sparingly than Beck, but yeah. So I might drop the kids to their bus stop. They catch their buses to school. I go to the gym. I'll try and do now 40-minute, or I've narrowed it down to a 32-minute incline walk. And get a good sweat on, lift some weights, do a sauna, get into the office. Probably a bit sparing on team meetings lately, mainly because the guys are so damn self-sufficient and so sort of self-motivated. They're often all over what they want to do for the day. But certainly when the new EA comes, we'll be more disciplined with our team meetings. It's also, I guess, that time of the year. But there are times that, we've been, we're certainly meeting every single day for, whether it's 15 to half an hour. And it's more around making sure that the guys are focused and supported in terms of whatever's happened over the weekend and where we're up to with campaigns. I try not to be too regimented, as in terms of that I'm blocking out hours for call sessions and things like that. That's just not my style. I would much prefer to sort of sit down at my desk and just think through, who it is I need to get onto, and what appraisals and listing appointments I need to follow up, and reach out to people within my network in general, or there's always someone to call, but it's certainly not a regimented exercise.
Have you ever tried to be regimented?
Oh, definitely.
It's just not you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When Ivan was in the business, and and there was a lot of stuff that Will was doing and Ivan was doing, and you were in there too, around what the right way to be is, and I definitely gave it a crack, and I'm sure I got some results out of it, but I didn't get more results out of that than just doing my thing.
I just want to get a sense of like how you would manage a campaign. So I assume all your processes are watertight, even though you don't come with a structure or a discipline. Like, what I'm taking from this conversation is it's hard for you to articulate what you do, because you just seem to, I don't know, like it's not like a 10-point plan. It's just you know what needs to be done, and you seem to get it done. Is that fair? Like, I don't know how to. I still can't describe your style.
It's a conundrum for the ages. It's been this way for years.
Do you frustrate many people?
Try not to.
But do you?
In what way? Like frustrate a competitor or frustrate my guys?
Well, okay. Let's use us. We've had an up and down relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Which I find fascinating, because we just spent a week in Bali. And like we hung out every day, spoke every day, and like just had the best time together. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But there's been conversations where we've yelled at each other on the phones.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah.
I personally think that what I find fascinating is I find you very composed. Right? Maybe chaotic, but like in a composed way. I don't know. That's I'm trying to be. I want to put this in the right way. But I also felt like maybe in those years, those foundational years where you were building, perhaps there was a lack of composure, or you were trying to hold on to a lot of things, and that frustrated me. And like you would call and you say, "I've just met this person. They want to deal with me, not you anymore," or something like that. And I used to find that really frustrating, because you're the only person who's ever said that to me. And you've said it about 10 times. There's a common theme here, Chris.
Vice versa.
Yeah. But like, I understand that's, I find that fascinating, because we have had ups and downs, but like where we've landed is, I think, in a really healthy, respectful place, and I really admire everything that you do.
Likewise.
And like, I like your style, and I can't even describe your style, but you know, like, this is what I would share for the listener, like hanging out with you in Bali, like I'd get up, I'd say, let's go to the gym. Sure. Then you're available for the gym. It's not like, you know, like everything was pretty easy. We train. I'd say, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. We trained super hard for several days. You never once said, I'm not going to do that. Or, you know, we just went with the flow and we just found a rhythm together. So it was just so easy. And I guess that's the benefits that comes with someone who's not so structured.
Yeah.
Because I could probably see myself arguing with a different, maybe I'm the structured person. maybe I'm the problem, right? Yeah. But we just work together.
Yeah.
But why do you think, actually, this is a better question for you. Why do you think we had some ups and downs over the years?
Fear in both of us. Just fear. Fear and ego and, I mean, the fear thing of imposter syndrome or not being good enough or, you know, whatever, not enough food at the table or, I don't know, you know, feeling the need to put someone back in their place or flex or not take shit from someone or whatever it is, you know, just that whole fear thing. Nowadays, I more sort of think, you know, if somebody I don't know, wants to challenge me or wants to, or you know, or if somebody has a good idea, I don't need to come over the top with another better idea, you know, and equally, I mean, funnily enough, with yourself, just for what it's worth. So my mind goes, this guy puts so much effort and energy into researching and figuring out like what the best toys are or what the best places are or the best food or whatever it is. And I'm like, so I can benefit from that, like without having done, you know, all that research. Or I'm like, yeah, great. Where are we going?
That's good. Yeah.
What are we doing?
That's actually good. You know, something else, I'll acknowledge this. And this is for the listener as well, because obviously you're operating at the highest possible level. But I did a training course last week for Resi Whitney staff. And you were sitting in the front row, and so was Andrew Liddell. That blows my mind, because both your results at the moment are way better than mine. But yet you're both in the front row. So, I mean, do you consider yourself, I like the term lifelong learner? Are you open? Are you still trying to grow as a human and grow as a practitioner? What's your attitude there?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, both the session that you did last week and the session you did in Bali, like blew me away, because it was just incredibly heartfelt. I don't think anyone would have ever imagined that would be a real estate session. Like that's just all I thought. I thought, oh, there's no way that any sort of civilian, you know, or any real estate person for that matter, would ever think that would be what you delivered in Bali. It was incredibly heartfelt. It was sincere. It was about, you know, honesty and integrity and so on. And, you know, and you did that sort of, even in the, you know, in the case of what we had there, which was like, you know, a lot of different opinions and views and so on, in the room. So, I really want to, I don't think it matters who it is. Like, you can learn off more people than you know. And yeah, you're no exception. Like, you're a great presenter, and your delivery is pretty on point, and obviously to be able to do that, you've really thought, you know, sort of deeply about all this stuff. So yeah, again, you know, you've put all the effort and energy in. I'll just be the beneficiary of the summary. Yeah.
I would like to finish off on just fatherhood and family. So okay, so you lead the team, you manage pressure, you perform at the highest possible level, but you're also a husband and a father, and that's clearly central to who you are.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. So my children are very much my universe. It's funny, once your wife has once you have a second child, the first child becomes dad's, which was definitely a sort of a something I realized. It was a bit of a shock. I'd never thought about it. I thought, oh, yeah, so it will just continue like it is. Beck takes care of, and then Chloe came, my second, and then Josh sort of became my responsibility, which is both scary when as you're going through the motions in real estate, but also wonderful because you connect and you bond in a way that you hadn't previously. And then a couple of years after Chloe, we had Jessie. Jessie wasn't planned, but was a nice surprise. To have three kids, it's a little bit like real estate in the sense that no 2 days ever the same. There's always something going on that you absolutely did not plan for, predict, expect. They're very much a guiding light in my life, and everything that I sort of set out to achieve or achieved, it's all for them. Obviously, none of that possible without Beck. Beck's a wonderful mother and a wonderful wife, and she has worked really, really hard over the years to create a great environment. She came from a checkered past as well. In terms of her upbringing, she was out of home quite young as well. So the sort of, I think probably a huge driving force for us is making sure that the kids have a solid, stable environment, same schools. We've moved about 4 times in the last 8 years, but giving them that stability is really important. I went to about 5 different schools. I think Beck went to about 3 or 4. So
do you think that desire for stability comes from your own upbringings?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, it's funny. It's not like I think that anything was so drastically bad for me. It's like I didn't have anything terrible happen. But it's more that I know what I got into, and I don't want my kids to get into any of what I got into. So I'd rather that they just have normal, balanced, healthy lives. Some of the things that I was dealing with at 14, 15, 16 years old were pretty weird, and I probably shouldn't have been dealing with.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Did your upbringing shape the dad that you wanted to be?
Funnily enough, and again, not something I've really thought about, but now that you ask, because my dad was such a loving, explosive sort of a entity, it's pretty easy to emulate that. Without the, reverting into a hole however often. Having balance, I do feel very balanced in terms of my day to day. So I can be thrown a pretty nasty curveball, whether it be from a client or from one of the kids or whatever it may be, and it doesn't necessarily change my constitution or my attitude or behavior. Takes a fair bit to rattle me. So bringing that kind of love and positivity that Dad had, and also my mum, was always very heartfelt and very supportive, and sort of focused on us. So I guess I take those things, but just from an environmental perspective, I'm pretty keen for them to have normal. Yeah.
Normal, yeah. When you say it takes a lot to rattle you,
Mm.
when was the last time you felt rattled at work?
Oh, look, I'm sure I'm rattled, probably once every couple of weeks, but wouldn't usually last. Actually, I was rattled when when those people said that they that I thought I was a shoo-in for the business, because I thought, no, I didn't. And then my initial thought, my immediate thought was, oh, they don't like you. They don't like you. And I started, manifesting, why don't they like you? What did you say? What did I say? Are you sure? Are you sure they were talking about me? So yeah, all that you go. But I mean, and that's just a little thing. But obviously I can be rattled. Sometimes you might have a client, you not realize that, I don't know, you start smelling a lot of alcohol in their breath every time you go over, and they start, throwing down F-bombs when they talk to you, and you go, oh, sugar, this is that situation. So, those sorts of things can be rattling. Like probably last Christmas was a bit of a nasty, surprise, because it was exactly that. I started to realize that one of my clients was a pretty heavy, well, I think actually both husband and wife were pretty heavy drinkers, and they were pretty toxic to the team and to me and so on. So it can happen. But yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, I was standing in her house, and she was drunk and, saying Chris Nunn, I was like, oh, okay, well, we're doing our best, and we'll get there, don't worry. Stay composed. I think I probably internalize, pain or stress or fear, in terms of not, necessarily reacting. Yeah. So I generally don't go fire with fire. So if someone's fire, I try and be water. Contrary to, some of our discussions in the past, but yeah, I'm learning, I'm growing.
And then, you know how you said you overthink things, so those people use somebody else, and you're questioning, do they like me?
Yeah.
Why do you think your brain went to that? Like, why is that important to you?
Yeah, look, I'd love to be one of those stoic people that couldn't care less if somebody likes them, doesn't like them. I mean, I think Shannon's a bit like that. Like I couldn't imagine Shannon sort of sitting around thinking, why don't they like me? He'd just go, well, that's how it is. Them's the breaks. Can't please everyone. Ciao.
I think he said to me once, someone interviewed someone else, and they chose someone else. And I said to him, are you upset? And he said, I'm not responsible for other people's bad decisions. I was like, but you still didn't get the listing.
Yeah.
And he was not fazed in the slightest.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, in terms of like learning by osmosis, and again, he's a great guy to just. I think you learn by osmosis with Shannon just from being around him, and it doesn't even have to be super repetitive. It could be one conversation you had with him 4 years ago, and that one thing he said just penetrates your mind and just sticks with you, and it's great because it's freeing. A lot of this stuff is freeing. Like years ago, he said, I remember, I think I was like, oh, I won this listing, I won that listing, and he's like, yep. No, not like, no, I think it was just, yep. And I remember Will had a client that he sold one of a duplex, and they gave the next duplex to someone else. And he said the way he handled that, and the learning he would have had from that is 10 times you winning a listing. Like, you learn so much more. He would, and just him having to manage his emotions, and, kind of just have humility over what happened there. And it always stuck with me. I was like, isn't that true? You win, you're like a rock star that, just, whatever, had a new hit song or something, like you're not like all you're kind of learning is like, oh, I'm great, the world's fantastic, yada yada. Whereas something happens like that, that's when you reflect on yourself, your practice, your humility, and you grow. So,
I think Shannon said to me once, I'd lost a couple of listings, and he just said to me in passing, yeah, he said, I think I've lost 10 in a row recently, but it just the way he said it diffused the whole situation. And I remember thinking, you lost 10 in a row? Like, I think you're the best agent in the country. Certainly the most like skilled. It's just his ability to like diffuse that situation, make you feel comfortable. But you are right. I think you definitely grow when you feel a setback. Just a couple more questions. What qualities do you hope your kids see in you?
Yeah, I hope that they see that I'm kind. Yeah, so in terms of being kind, it's pretty, if you're kind, it's a pretty damn good start. Like if you're dealing with a client, you're kind. If you're dealing with your family and you're kind. If you're dealing with a colleague and you're kind, it's a damn good start.
Second last question, right? If your kids listen to this in 20 years, what message would you want them to hear?
It's funny that where my mind goes is like, it's okay. It's all okay. Like you're enough. You are enough. You don't have to be anything that, you don't have to be anything you don't want to be, or you don't have to be, someone else's version of what the right thing to be is. Just be yourself. Be kind. Be loving. Be gentle. Don't be fearful, or try to combat your fear. Be yourself.
And what about lastly, how do you pass on values like, say, integrity and then work effort, if you like, given how much you sort of, like your work ethic, I should say. How do you want to pass on values like that, or?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely do. It's something that I struggle with. I don't know about you, but I just think the way they're growing up is so different to how I grew up. So I almost feel like I have to create the chaos. I have to create the the fire and brimstone. It's one thing to learn how to survive, because if you don't learn quickly, you're going to be massively disadvantaged, or you're going to lose. So that's how I kind of grew up. Like if you don't figure this out for yourself, like you're going to lose, and it's not going to be good outcome for you. Whereas I have to try and manufacture that in my house. So I have to try to figure out what their pain points are and make sure that that there's accountability. So yeah, it's very important to me to try to instill work ethic. I worry because I think it's easy for someone to look at what we do and think that that's life. Think that, oh yeah, that's easy, whatever. I'll just be a real estate agent like Dad, or I'll, whatever thought they might have. Because as you and I know, it's not that easy. And I guess there's an element of, if you're doing what we do well, like trying to make it look easy, trying to make it look effortless.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It can look really easy.
Yeah.
But that's so far from reality, isn't it?
Such a mental struggle, not the least of which is, is sort of ourselves being our own worst enemies a lot of the time. But yeah, I try where I can to instill in Joshy and Chloe and Jess that life is not easy, and that they're gonna have to buckle down. Chloe is pretty incredible in her own right. So's Jessie. I mean, not that people want to hear about your kids, you know, but yeah, they're all such different and unique individuals. I have a special bond with each of them. So yeah, it's a...
You said something once that stuck with me, and I share this with so many people. You actually said to me once, I actually like my kids.
Yeah.
Some parents don't like their kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And it's funny because when people ask me about my kids, I'm like, yeah, I really like my kids.
Yeah.
I actually love my kids. I
Yeah.
love hanging out with them. They're my children, but they're like my friends too in that sort of capacity.
So good, hey?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
So good.
Thank you for today. I have obviously known you for a long time. I didn't know you left home at 14. I didn't know that your father was bipolar. I didn't know about the struggles that you had. I didn't know that you had cancer and turned up to work the day after. I had no idea that you had frozen spaghetti for a period of your life because you were sacrificing and trying to get ahead with wealth creation. And then you fast forward to the present day. And, you know, what I see in front of me is just a really solid guy. And a great dad and a great husband and a great leader and one of the best agents in the country. So thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks, mate.
And thanks for your friendship over the years, Chris.
Likewise.